Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! Golden rays of dawn gently seeped through the slats of the blinds, transforming the empty bed into a canvas of dancing shadows. Silence enveloped the apartment, disturbed only by the rhythmic buzz of the fridge and distant traffic echoes from the city streets. With a yawn, Brantley stirred, his hand raking through his unruly brown locks. As he stretched, his fingers summoned his phone to reveal a message from Cassidy, the early riser. "Morning escape to yoga. I'm off but will return later. Tonight, perhaps," it read. A quick reply confirmed their evening reunion, followed by Brantley's energetic shedding of blankets and a stride towards the day's adventures. The hardwood felt cool beneath his bare feet as he padded across the bedroom toward the bathroom. The scent of Cassidy's perfume still lingered in the air, a gentle reminder of her presence from the night before. After a quick shower, Brantley dressed in his typical weekend attire of faded jeans and a plain gray t-shirt. He wandered into the kitchen, brewed a pot of coffee, and leaned against the counter while waiting for it to percolate. His gaze drifted around the apartment, taking in the small touches Cassidy had added over the months they'd been dating. A potted plant here, a decorative pillow there. Something teal caught his eye, draped over the arm of the living room chair. Curious, Brantley walked over and picked up the garment. Cassidy's yoga pants. She must have forgotten them in her rush to leave. He held them up, studying the smooth, stretchy material between his fingers. The color reminded him of the ocean near his childhood home, deep and rich. Without really thinking about it, he found himself wondering what the fabric would feel like against skin.
"She won't be back until tonight,"
he murmured to the empty apartment. Before he could second-guess himself, Brantley returned to the bedroom and shut the door. Though he lived alone, and there was no one to witness what he was about to do. He placed the teal yoga pants on the bed and stared at them for a long moment. His heart rate quickened slightly as he slipped off his jeans. The material felt cool and sleek as he pulled the yoga pants up his legs. To his surprise, they slid on easily, hugging his thighs and calves in a way that felt both strange and oddly comfortable. He had expected them to be too small, but they stretched perfectly to accommodate his frame. Standing before the full-length mirror on his closet door, Brantley turned slowly, examining his reflection from different angles. He breathed, running his hands along the smooth fabric covering his thighs. The sensation was unlike anything he'd experienced before. His basketball shorts and sweatpants suddenly seemed bulky and restrictive in comparison. These moved with his body like a second skin. He bent at the knees, twisted at the waist, even attempted a half-hearted yoga pose he'd seen Cassidy practice. The pants flexed with each movement, never binding or bunching uncomfortably. After a few minutes of experimentation, reality intruded on his private moment. What was he doing? These were his girlfriend's clothes. With a flush of embarrassment warming his cheeks, Brantley quickly peeled off the yoga pants and carefully folded them, placing them exactly where he had found them in the living room. Throughout the day, however, his mind kept returning to the experience. The smooth fabric, the perfect fit, the freedom of movement. He found himself touching the teal material whenever he passed by the chair, recalling the sensation. When Cassidy arrived that evening, dressed in a floral sundress and carrying a bag of takeout, Brantley greeted her with a kiss and tried to act normal. "Oh, I see I left my yoga pants," she said, spotting them on the chair. "I was looking for these all day. I was in such a rush this morning."
"Yeah, I noticed them after you left," Brantley replied,
helping her unpack the food containers on the coffee table.
How was your day?
As they ate Thai food and watched a movie, Brantley could barely concentrate on the plot. The secret of his morning experiment weighed on him, not because he felt ashamed exactly, but because the experience had awakened something unexpected within him, a curiosity he couldn't quite name. 2 weeks later, Brantley found himself standing in the activewear section of a department store in a mall 20 minutes from his apartment, far enough away that he was unlikely to run into anyone he knew. He'd told himself he was just looking, just curious. Yet his hands trembled slightly as he fingered the material of a pair of black running leggings.
Can I help you find something?
A sales associate approached, her customer service smile firmly in place.
Oh, I'm just looking for a gift for my girlfriend,
Brantley stammered, his face heating.
What size does she wear?
Brantley gave his own measurements, disguised as Cassidy's. The associate helped him select a pair of black leggings and a matching athletic top. As she rang up his purchases, Brantley avoided eye contact, irrationally fearing she could somehow read his intentions. Back at his apartment, he locked the door and drew the blinds before removing the new clothes from the shopping bag. The black leggings felt even better than Cassidy's teal yoga pants. Designed for running, they had additional compression features and moisture-wicking material. When he added the athletic top, completing the outfit, something shifted in how he viewed himself in the mirror. It wasn't about looking feminine. It was about the comfort, the freedom, the sensation of the fabrics against his skin. Over the following weeks, Brantley's collection grew stealthily, a pair of navy blue yoga pants here, a moisture-wicking tank top there. He stored them in the back of his closet, behind winter coats and rarely used luggage, taking them out only when he was certain he would be alone for hours. During these private sessions, he would work from home, clean the apartment, or even follow along with yoga videos online, enjoying the unrestricted movement and the soft embrace of the active wear. In these moments, something felt right in a way he couldn't articulate. The hiding, the secrecy, it wore on him. His relationship with Cassidy had grown serious. They discussed moving in together. The thought of either continuing his secret habit under their shared roof or giving it up entirely filled him with equal measures of anxiety. The inevitable discovery came on a rainy Saturday when Cassidy arrived unexpectedly while Brantley was deep cleaning his apartment, dressed in burgundy leggings and a black compression top. The sound of the key in the lock froze him in place. They'd exchanged keys months ago, but Cassidy rarely used hers without texting first. Before he could react, the door swung open, and there she stood, rain dripping from her umbrella. "Hey, I thought we could—" Cassidy stopped mid-sentence, her eyes widening as she took in Brantley's appearance. For a terrible moment, neither of them spoke. Brantley's heart hammered in his chest. His face burned with embarrassment, and he fought the urge to run to the bedroom, to hide, to pretend this moment wasn't happening.
I can explain,
he began, though he wasn't sure he could. Cassidy closed the umbrella and set it in the stand by the door. Her expression was unreadable as she removed her rain jacket. "Okay," she said quietly. "I'm listening." Brantley gestured helplessly at his attire. "I know this looks weird." "Does it make you happy?" Cassidy asked, her voice softer than he expected. The question caught him off guard. He had been prepared for shock, disgust, or confusion. Her simple inquiry cut through his defensiveness. "Yes," he admitted, the word barely audible. "It feels right. Comfortable. I don't know how to explain it." Cassidy crossed the room and took his hands in hers. then that's what matters to me. Relief washed over Brantley, followed quickly by a wave of emotion that brought unexpected tears to his eyes. You're not freaked out? Surprised, yes. Freaked out? No. She squeezed his hands. How long have you been doing this? A few months, since that morning you left your teal yoga pants here. A small smile played at the corners of her mouth. So that's what started it, and you've been hiding it all this time? Brantley nodded, still braced for the other shoe to drop, for her reaction to shift from acceptance to judgment. Well, first of all, those leggings look really good on you. Second, I wish you hadn't felt you needed to hide this from me. They talked for hours that afternoon. Brantley revealed his hidden collection, explaining how wearing the clothes made him feel. Cassidy listened without interruption, asking questions only to better understand. Have you ever thought about trying other women's clothing? She asked, eventually. Not just activewear? The question hung in the air between them. Had he thought about it? Fleetingly, perhaps, but he'd pushed those thoughts away. I don't know, he admitted. This already feels complicated enough. Cassidy nodded thoughtfully. There's no rush to figure it all out. Just know that I'm here, and you don't have to hide from me. In the weeks that followed, their relationship deepened through this new layer of honesty. Cassidy helped Brantley organize his collection, moving it from its hiding place in the back of the closet to a proper drawer. She even surprised him with a gift, a pair of high-quality running leggings in a deep forest green that she thought would complement his eyes. What began as support for his comfort choices gradually evolved into gentle encouragement to explore further. One evening, as they lounged on the couch watching a movie, Cassidy casually mentioned a makeup tutorial she'd seen online. The person doing it had a face shape similar to yours, she said, tracing the line of his jaw with her finger. It made me wonder if you'd ever been curious about that, too. Brantley hesitated. Sometimes, he admitted, but I wouldn't know where to start. The following weekend, Cassidy brought over her makeup bag. No pressure, she assured him. Just if you want to experiment a little. That afternoon became another milestone in Brantley's journey. As Cassidy carefully applied foundation, then demonstrated how to blend eyeshadow, something clicked into place, a piece of a puzzle he hadn't known he was solving. Can I try something? Cassidy asked, holding up a tube of auburn hair dye. I bought this for myself but changed my mind. Your hair is getting longer anyway. Brantley touched his brown hair, which had indeed grown out longer than he usually kept it. The idea both terrified and exhilarated him.
Okay,
he agreed, his voice barely above a whisper. The transformation was subtle, but profound. The warm auburn color softened his features, working with the makeup to create a different version of himself in the mirror, a version that felt unexpectedly right. What do you think? Cassidy asked, standing behind him as they both gazed at his reflection. Brantley studied himself, turning his head from side to side. I think, he began, then paused, searching for the right words. I think I'm starting to understand something about myself that I've been pushing away for a long time. That night, lying in bed with Cassidy curled against his side, Brantley whispered into the darkness. What if this isn't just about clothes? She propped herself up on one elbow, her face barely visible in the dim light filtering through the curtains. What do you mean? What if it's about who I am, inside? Cassidy stroked his cheek gently. Then we figure that out together too. The conversation opened a floodgate. Brantley began researching gender identity, reading articles and forums, watching videos of people sharing their experiences. The more he learned, the more pieces fell into place. Childhood memories of discomfort, the persistent feeling of something not quite right, the profound sense of rightness he felt in women's clothes. 6 months after Cassidy discovered him in the burgundy leggings, Brantley sat down with her at their favorite coffee shop, hands wrapped around a mug to hide their trembling.
I think I might be transgender,
he said, the words both frightening and freeing as they left his lips. Cassidy reached across the table and covered his hands with hers. I've been wondering if you might come to that conclusion. You have? She nodded. I've seen how you've changed these past months, not just with the clothes or makeup, but how you carry yourself, how your eyes light up when you feel comfortable in your skin. You seem more authentic.
I'm scared,
Brantley admitted.
This changes everything.
It doesn't change how I feel about you, Cassidy assured him. It doesn't change who you are at your core, the person I fell in love with. The journey that followed wasn't easy. Brantley began seeing a therapist who specialized in gender identity. He started growing his auburn hair longer, embracing the soft waves that framed his face. With Cassidy's support, he began exploring names that might better reflect his true self. What about Adeline? Cassidy suggested one evening as they scrolled through a baby names website. It means noble or kind. The name resonated immediately.
Adeline,
he repeated, testing how it felt on his tongue.
I like it.
The transition from Brantley to Adeline happened gradually, then all at once. First came telling close friends, who responded with varying degrees of surprise, but ultimate acceptance. Then, family, a more difficult hurdle, with his parents needing time to process the news. Adeline began hormone therapy, watching with a mixture of anxiety and joy as her body slowly began to align with her internal sense of self. Her features softened, her skin grew smoother, and subtle curves began to appear where once there had been none. The day Adeline officially changed her name was marked by both celebration and reflection. She and Cassidy went out for dinner at an upscale restaurant, Adeline dressed in a simple black dress that Cassidy had helped her select. To Adeline, Cassidy toasted, raising her wine glass. To being true to yourself. Adeline smiled, overwhelmed with gratitude for the woman sitting across from her. I couldn't have done this without you. Yes, you could have, Cassidy countered. It might have taken longer, but this was always your journey to make. I'm just grateful I get to be part of it. As they walked home that night, hand in hand under a canopy of stars, Adeline reflected on the winding path that had led her here. From curious try-on of teal yoga pants to embracing her true identity. The activewear that had once been hidden at the back of her closet now hung proudly alongside dresses, skirts, and blouses. The auburn hair that had once been an experiment now fell in loose waves past her shoulders. 1 year after her official transition, Adeline stood before the mirror in the apartment she now shared with Cassidy. She wore teal yoga pants, a new pair, bought to match the ones that had started it all, and a fitted white tank top. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and light makeup enhanced her features. She hardly recognized the person she had been before, yet knew that same soul resided within her still. Cassidy appeared in the doorway, dressed for their morning run together. "Ready?" Adeline nodded, turning away from the mirror to embrace the woman who had stood by her through every step of her journey. "More than ready." As they jogged through the park, the early morning sunlight dappling through the trees, Adeline felt the familiar, comfortable stretch of the activewear that had first opened her eyes to possibilities. But now, the comfort went beyond the external. It reached deep into her core, where she had finally found harmony between her inner and outer selves. The path ahead still held challenges. There would be difficult days, misunderstandings to navigate, prejudices to overcome. But with each stride, with each breath, Adeline moved forward, authentic, complete, and truly herself for the first time. That evening, as she prepared dinner in their kitchen, Cassidy wrapped her arms around Adeline from behind, resting her chin on her shoulder. "What are you thinking about? You've been quiet." Adeline turned in her embrace, tucking a strand of auburn hair behind her ear. "I was just remembering something my therapist said early on, that transition isn't about becoming someone new, but about becoming who you've always been." "Wise words," Cassidy smiled. "And who you've always been is pretty amazing." "Even when I was hiding women's activewear in the back of my closet?" "Especially then," Cassidy laughed. "That took courage, even if you didn't realize it at the time." Later, as they sat on their balcony watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, Adeline considered how far she had come. From the confused young man trying on his girlfriend's yoga pants to the confident woman she was now, the journey had transformed her in ways she could never have anticipated. "Do you ever wonder," she asked Cassidy, "what would have happened if you hadn't forgotten those teal yoga pants that morning?" Cassidy pondered the question, her head tilted thoughtfully. "I think you would have found your way eventually. Some things are meant to be discovered." Adeline nodded, gazing at the fading light on the horizon. "I think you're right." 2 years into her transition, Adeline faced one of her biggest challenges, returning to her hometown for her younger brother's wedding. Though she had maintained contact with her family and they had seen photos of her as Adeline, this would be the first time many extended family members and childhood acquaintances would see her in person. The night before they were set to leave, anxiety kept her awake, pacing their bedroom in her comfortable teal pajama pants. "What if they don't recognize me? What if they say something hurtful? What if I ruin Michael's wedding just by being there?" Cassidy sat up in bed, her expression serious. "First of all, you could never ruin anything just by being yourself. Second, your brother specifically asked you to be there, as Adeline. He wants his sister at his wedding." Tears welled in Adeline's eyes at the word sister. Still new, still precious. "You're right. I'm just scared." "That's okay," Cassidy assured her. "Being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing something even though you're scared." The wedding weekend proved to be a mixture of awkward moments and beautiful revelations. There were relatives who stumbled over pronouns, old neighbors who stared a bit too long, and a few uncomfortable silences. But there were also tearful hugs from her mother, who whispered, "You look so happy, and that's all I ever wanted for you." There was her father's gruff but sincere compliment on her auburn hair. And most meaningfully, there was her brother Michael's introduction. "This is my sister, Adeline." During the reception, Adeline found herself alone at the bar when an elderly great-aunt approached. She braced herself, remembering this particular aunt's conservative views. "I wasn't sure what to expect," the old woman said, studying Adeline's face. "But you have your grandmother's smile. She would have been proud of your courage." The simple acknowledgement brought tears to Adeline's eyes. "Thank you," she managed. As the night wound down, Adeline and Cassidy swayed together on the dance floor, her burgundy bridesmaid's dress a stark contrast to Cassidy's emerald green gown. "Thank you for being here with me," Adeline murmured against Cassidy's hair. "Always," Cassidy replied. "Though I have to say, your Aunt Mildred cornered me in the bathroom and asked if this makes me a lesbian now." Adeline couldn't help but laugh. "What did you tell her?" "I told her love doesn't fit in neat little boxes, and neither do people." Cassidy pulled back slightly to meet Adeline's gaze. "Besides, labels never mattered much to me. I fell in love with the person you are, not the gender on your birth certificate." 3 years after her transition began, Adeline found herself standing in the same department store where she had first nervously purchased women's activewear. Now, she browsed the racks with confidence, selecting a new pair of running leggings for an upcoming marathon. Her first as Adeline. As she waited in line at the checkout, the sales associate smiled warmly. "Training for something special?" "A marathon," Adeline replied, returning the smile. "My first." "That's impressive. Good luck." The simple, normal interaction, being seen and acknowledged as herself without question or second glances, filled Adeline with quiet joy. These moments of ordinary acceptance had once seemed impossible. On the morning of the marathon, Adeline stood at the starting line wearing her new teal running leggings and a moisture-wicking tank top, her auburn hair secured in a tight braid. Cassidy kissed her for luck before heading to her designated spectator spot. As the starting gun fired and thousands of runners surged forward, Adeline felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over her. Each step carried her further from who she had pretended to be and closer to who she truly was. The journey hadn't been about the clothes, though they had been the catalyst. It had been about finding the courage to acknowledge her truth and the strength to live it. Mile after mile, her feet pounded the pavement in a steady rhythm. When exhaustion threatened to overwhelm her around mile 20, she focused on how far she had come. Not just in the race, but in life. The thought gave her the strength to push through the wall and continue forward. As she approached the finish line, she spotted Cassidy in the crowd, cheering wildly, holding a sign that read, "Run, Adeline, run!" With a final burst of energy, Adeline crossed the finish line, arms raised in triumph. Volunteers draped a finisher's medal around her neck and handed her a bottle of water. She gulped it gratefully, scanning the crowd for Cassidy. When they found each other, Cassidy enveloped her in a tight embrace, heedless of the sweat. "You did it! I'm so proud of you!" "Thank you for believing in me," Adeline said, emotion making her voice thick. "Even when I didn't believe in myself." That night, muscles aching pleasantly from her achievement, Adeline lay beside Cassidy in their bed, reflecting on the long road she had traveled from curiosity to acceptance to pride. "You know," she said softly, "sometimes I think about that moment, finding those teal yoga pants and deciding to try them on. Such a small decision that changed everything." Cassidy propped herself up on one elbow. "It's funny how life works that way. The biggest journeys often start with the smallest steps." Adeline nodded, her auburn hair spread across the pillow. "I never imagined I could be this happy, this comfortable in my own skin." You deserve every bit of that happiness, Cassidy assured her, leaning down to place a gentle kiss on her forehead. And I feel privileged to witness your journey. 5 years after her transition began, Adeline stood before a classroom of university students, her auburn hair swept into an elegant updo, wearing a professional burgundy dress and sensible heels. As a guest lecturer on gender studies, she had been invited to share her personal experience with transition. The journey to authenticity is rarely linear, she told the attentive students. For me, it began with a pair of teal yoga pants and a moment of curiosity. That small act of exploration opened a door I hadn't even known existed. A student raised her hand. Were you afraid of how people would react? Terrified, Adeline admitted with a smile. But I discovered that most people have the capacity for understanding when given the chance. And those who don't, well, their limitations aren't my burden to carry. After the lecture, as she gathered her notes, a young person approached hesitantly. Your story, it resonated with me. I've been feeling similar things, but I've been too scared to acknowledge them. Adeline recognized the fear and hope mingling in the student's eyes, the same emotions she had once battled. The path isn't easy, she said gently, but living authentically is worth every difficult step. That evening, as she recounted the conversation to Cassidy over dinner, Adeline felt the full circle of her journey, from someone seeking understanding to someone able to offer it. It's amazing to think that sharing your story might be someone else's catalyst, Cassidy observed, reaching across the table to squeeze Adeline's hand. The way you were mine, Adeline replied, grateful beyond words for the woman who had stood beside her through every triumph and challenge. As they walked home hand in hand, Adeline's thoughts drifted back to that first morning, the unexpected discovery, the private moment of recognition, the beginning of a journey she could never have anticipated. From those teal yoga pants to the life she now lived as her authentic self, every step had led her here, to happiness, to wholeness, to home. In their apartment, Adeline changed into comfortable loungewear, catching a glimpse of herself in the mirror. The auburn-haired woman who gazed back was no longer a stranger or a distant possibility, but simply herself, Adeline, in all her complexity and joy. What are you thinking? Cassidy asked, coming up behind her and wrapping her arms around Adeline's waist. Adeline smiled at their reflection. I'm thinking that I'm exactly who I'm supposed to be. And in that moment, that was all that mattered. Thanks for watching, my girlies. Be sure to check out Patreon for more.